Well, I'm just starting it now. Well, one thing I was thinking about when we were watching the video was like, because I know that there was this consideration of like the figure of the third. There's like an initial thing that we were talking about when you were talking about the performance, and how there are two of you, and you kind of acted as mediators between the space itself, the physical space, and the audience. But then I guess you could also keep redrawing this triangle in so many ways, like, because it was also like a triangle could be drawn between the two of you and the audience, and then the two of you and the drone, and like the drone and the space and the audience. Like, there are all these triangles going on. Mm-hmm. But one thing I noticed in the video in particular was like the sound of the drone was not there, and that really changed everything, because for me at least it did. I mean, because I felt like when you were performing, there was the sound of the drone almost like defined the space so intensely. It was so like present. How was it for you with the sound? Did you enjoy it or not, or like how do you think it changed the performance?
I mean, I think it enhanced the drone's presence.
Yeah.
So it really made the triangle more visible, I think. But then also this idea of how the drone also acts as like an entity of surveillance.
Yeah.
Because it's also filming.
Yeah.
Us. So there's something about like gaze, and even though it is a triangle, the drone is also quite separate from us, because it's also very, I mean, I see it as very cold and technological. It's like a robot.
Yeah, and it has a really high def gaze too.
Yeah, and we're human, we're breathing, things are constantly changing and morphing through time and space. So I think it just kind of like enhances its
that divide.
Yeah. The sound.
But also the drone is just, but that I realized later, because I wasn't thinking of that before. It is also a reminder that there is a third person that that flies it, no, and that decides where it goes.
Yeah.
And also decides what it wants to film.
Yeah.
I wasn't really, because I was thinking of the drone as a performative object or as a third performer, but actually it isn't really, because it's really clear that there is a person.
Yeah.
And it's still like just an instrument or something.
Yeah.
Somehow.
But that person is so, I mean, I guess that's the thing too with drone warfare and stuff, like that person, that third performer or the driver or whatever, is at such a remove that they're almost not there,
Yeah.
But it's funny too, because the figure of the driver, he sounded like a really particular guy. Like, how did you meet him again? Or like, how were you connected with him?
Contact of Lucas.
Okay. And he's a drone racer,
He's
right?
a drone racer.
he makes videos with drone, or he's like a film, whatever, he called himself a filmmaker, no?
He considers himself as an artist also.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But then he also built his own drone and showed it to us.
Oh yeah.
And it's like it doesn't really look like a filming drone. It looks like some
His racing drone.
Yeah.
And he raced them like competitively, like in the Czech Republic.
And he watches through a looking, like he has a glass, like kind of an Oculus, and with the Oculus he races it as if he would sit in the drone.
Wow.
It's really insane.
Damn.
But I don't know, it's really, because I was showing the pictures to people, and then I was saying you have to consider that there was a drone, and then they were saying, because drone have so strong connotations, no, to war, and I don't know, somehow something really negative,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know how our position to it was. It wasn't really clear, no. I don't know. I did for me to be with a drone in a performance. It wasn't something that helped, but it also, I don't know, I think it created some sort of an atmosphere.
For sure.
No?
There was a tension to it
Yeah.
too, in this presence of this thing that was moving around and like that made this noise and was blowing the trees and leaves and stuff like that. And I mean, if anything, it also kind of felt like not only were you mediating the flow of the space and mediating the attention, the audience's attention around different parts of the space, but also you were kind of mediating the relationship between the drone and the audience, because, I mean, that was the reason, like, your performance going on in the gallery was the reason that everyone was down there, and the reason that that drone was there too, you know, so it was kind of like, I don't know, I would be fucking freaked out if I went down to that garden and there was just like some drone hovering there for no reason, you know? But yeah, it's true, there was also, it wasn't like, I didn't feel like there was a relation between you two and the drone that was like antagonistic or oppositional, nor did it feel like it was like kind of, even though what it is this tool of surveillance, I wasn't really thinking about it as something that was watching over you or something. It was just kind of like a presence there.
Yeah.
But you did definitely feel, I mean, in thinking about also the way that it moved versus the way that you two moved, like this divide that you were talking about in the beginning is like that I could definitely feel, because the movements that you two were doing were generally synced up, but they were not like completely indistinct, you know, like there were small gaps of like of how you guys were doing the same movements, and that in that you could feel this kind of organic like texture, you know, like because two bodies are just not going to move the same way ever, like but the way that the drone moved was just like gliding and kind of like floating, and yeah. I mean, one thing I actually thought about too is like when one of the notes I took when I watched you rehearsing was like you at one point, Shade, you were like, you like don't think of me, like don't think of what I'm doing, like when you're doing these movements, and that I thought really interesting, because it's like I feel like usually in like a dance performance or something where people are doing the same movements, it's like you're supposed to be all doing the same thing at the exact same time, like to have this illusion of kind of complete continuity and like almost robotic like exactness. So I mean, how would you describe the relation between you two as you were performing? Like how are you keeping the other person in your awareness, or like how did it feel?
I mean, I think it's this thing of like, we did create movements that were in sync and together, and then of course we're living, breathing things that's moving through time, and that's what's so essential about performance in general, that it's not going to be predictable in a way, and for me, like the drone is also this kind of like symbolic reminder of whatever technology and how it actually is almost predictable. So there's like that contrast. But then with our movements, we're trying to be predictable, but of course it's impossible. And I mean, I think with the relationship between each other, I felt like there was no hierarchy between us, and we were very much on the same level. But of course, we're different people. So I think it's like we wanted to play with that kind of juxtaposition, and But of course, and then there are moments where we did go off and do separate different things, and then we'd come back together.
Yeah.
And I felt like we were in this space, but then we were also creating this space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you kind of defined its parameters and things like that. Yeah.
And then I was thinking of like what are these two figures? They have some sort of a mission, no? They're not there for fun or something. There is more like there is some
a drive.
Yeah, and I don't know exactly, and I don't know if they really communicate, because they know exactly what needs to be done somehow.
But do you think they depended on each other to carry out this mission, whatever it was? Or could it have been done with just one of them?
I don't know. Yeah, maybe.
It's hard to, I don't know.
It's difficult. I was more thinking of pictures, no? When we were talking about uniform, and then we were thinking, oh, actually we look like two workers on a cigarette break. You know, they go out of the office and they stand in the park. I don't know, they speak about what they see, or I don't know.
Yeah.
And then but it was also like, because I had this text and you were more in the movement, it was also, there was some, no hierarchy, but there was some division, no?
Yeah, different. Yeah.
I feel like my character was like some trying to explain something. I don't know. Like,
yeah, because you also have the thing with the leaf and the map on the leaf. Yeah.
And that's actually what I was thinking with the drone. That was actually the closest connection to the drone, in my opinion. I don't know if you see it like this, but because in the text there is also this zoom from far. It goes to that place. And then the person sees itself on the leaf, and I don't know, I thought it's like the drone that comes from high and flies down.
Yeah.
And goes closer.
Yeah.
But I haven't really thought about our relation so much.
But I think with the text, it's just another aspect of mapping the space as well. Like, it's just another aid to it, as opposed to movement. It's like also language ties into it.
A spatial description via language. Yeah. I think it's, the fact, I didn't feel like there was a hierarchy also between you two, or a power dynamic that tilted one way or the other. But when you were saying this before, it reminded me of this writer and theorist, Edouard Glissant, of whom I haven't actually read that much, but there is this very famous statement in his book called The Poetics of Relation, where he's basically saying the only way that we can enter into relation with an other is by recognizing our difference. And so it's not, so he's kind of saying a relation between two people or two entities is not about finding commonality necessarily, but actually realizing, okay, you're different, and in recognizing that, then we can relate to each other. So it also makes it, I think that was also kind of, that difference was also a given dimension by the fact that you as a performer never enunciated any language.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's that's maybe also a good starting point for collaboration, no? To see
what's different.
Yeah.
And how you can come together.
Yeah. Yeah. There was an artist who gave a talk at Utica a few days ago for this colloquium thing that we have to go to. I don't know if you... I don't know, of course, I was like, oh my god, we have to go, and so many people are just not there, and they're they don't take attendance or any of this bullshit. I'm just what?
Was it this Pluk?
The artist?
Yeah.
No, her name was Mia...
Mia von Watt.
Yeah.
I know her.
Yeah. She was cool. She was really cool. And when she does a lot of collaborative works, like pretty much all of her work is collaborative in some way. And when someone asked her about it, one thing that she said that I think is really nice is like, in a collaboration, it's also about like the point where like you give up power to the other person or the other people that you're working with. You know, like that's can be so difficult, but that's also part of that thing of collaborating, which I think is really good, powerful. And I was thinking about this a few days ago too, because Zoe designed like a graphic for a reading that we're doing in a few weeks, and she was sending me different versions of them, and like there was one that I just like loved so much, and I was like gagged, like I was like, whoa, this fuck, I'm so impressed, like oh my god. And then she sent me more versions the next day, and I was just being so annoying, like I was just being like, no, okay, that's really nice, but like this one from yesterday, she was like, yeah, okay, what about this? I was like, yeah, that's also nice, but like no, not that one, from the one from yesterday. And then I was like, no, but maybe at a certain point, like it also means that you don't get exactly what you want, you know? And like that's also part of the greater scheme of the collaboration. Like you have to make sacrifices. Yeah.
It's quite political.
Yeah. Yeah. It was also funny, I mean, another actual like really tangible presence in that space that we haven't talked about was the 2 sculptures.
Yes.
Like,
but I think that's also really nice that we entered this space with such strong
setting. Like, yeah.
And in a way kind of killed it.
Yeah.
I think, because I don't know, like not many people really mentioned like, oh, why did you choose to do it in this space? Like there's such a strong like kind of political sculpture in this space. Like even for myself, I didn't even really think about it so much.
Yeah.
Like they don't really stand out to me that much.
Yeah.
Which I think is really interesting and nice.
Yeah, me too. I mean, the only kind of like correlation, it's like almost like you just used it as another just raw piece of the space.
Yeah.
Like rather than
just like a wall.
Yeah, you weren't climbing on the artwork that you stuck your head into the asshole. Like you were just like using it as like an elevated surface from which you started, and then like and like there are these 2 human figures bending down, but like I feel like there was very little attempt to like illustrate some kind of connection between you 2 and these 2 figures, which is But I just also, I mean, it's so funny that it seems to be this like pilgrimage point for so many people. Like everyone is, when we were talking, these like Italian dudes came up and were like asking to take photos of this sculpture, and like also when they were installing the show. Like the day before the opening, like, people were showing up to the gallery being like, can we come in just to like see the sculpture? And they were like pissed off when people were like, no, you can't. Like we're installing a show in the gallery. Like,
It's just, I don't know, it's just in terms of, there was exactly 2 of them, and then they both have 2 feet. I don't know, like just because I'm sometimes just formally, just when there's some formal things, numbers. Symmetry. Yeah. And this is what you always think of a setting. Or if you do an exhibition, you hang something, there is always things just somehow influence each other always. No? And somehow I think it made us somehow more, it kind of helped us to become figures ourselves or something. Somehow. In a way, there is part of the performance where we are, but maybe it's the wrong word, but somehow monumental almost. But just in really like small seconds, and then again we're really breaking it.
Yeah.
But if there is this, we have this movement together, and somehow it's almost, there is like some almost like statues, no?
Yeah.
And this, when we were rehearsed in Berlin, we didn't think of that at all. And I like it because I think if we would have shown it somewhere else, it made us also, myself, I felt bigger in a way. For some reason, also because of this elevation, I think.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it also site-specific.
Yeah.
And then not just these two figures who are big, but being in this courtyard with this huge. I mean, it is actually quite small, but in the vertical it extends.
Mm-hmm.
And these trees were so big, and I like it as a. I mean, I wish that there would have been windows to see us from above somehow, because it was a little bit like a amphitheater or something.
Yeah, a little like valley.
Yeah.
No, it's the whole space of Futura, like, and its elevation and everything really was so wild, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And you realize going out into that courtyard, like, how high up on this hill of like Holečkova or whatever it's called you actually are when you enter the gallery versus when you're all the way down there, because like it just drops like so far. Yeah.
And I also liked that we were away from the actual show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Almost like.
Yeah, it wasn't like dancers, like
No.
like interacting with visual art, like responding to the painting, like.
So a little like down there where there are the assholes, and we were like kind of like the asshole of the show. The last door to the garden.
Yeah, it's funny too, like when the performance is going on, like, and I also only really thought of this now watching the video, but like obviously the presence of the drone down there was like really notable, and but I wasn't actually thinking about the fact that it was actually videotaping the show, which is like kind of another. It's kind of another way of like. There, I guess the drone was kind of the mediator between your live performance and the performance as it exists in documentation, you know? And it's like, but even so, there was an incredible amount of image production going on in that space of the show. I mean, even when you weren't performing, there were people going down there to take photos of the asshole sculpture. So like, people, I think, were taking photos of that. People were taking photos of you. People were taking photos of the drone. People were taking photos of people taking photos of the drone. You know, it was like so much. There was so much image going on. And even in the video, I like that you would see the people all just looking directly into the camera. Mm-hmm. And in a way, I think that also kind of strengthens the sense of the performance being a performance of movement through time, but also an act of mediation, because it's not something where it was like you have to keep your attention on us like the whole time, you know. It was also something that was drawing parameters and showing different types of relation between bodies and between two performing bodies and a group of bodies that are observing. But it was not something that was like, oh, if you looked away for a second you wouldn't have any idea what was going on if you looked back.
And somehow the drone is creating tension because it is this thing that's higher, and somehow like it's threatening because people don't know what it is, or like it has its mind, like a mind of its own, even though someone out there is controlling it, but still. So again, it's like people are scared of this thing that's surveilling, but then at the same time everyone's surveilling each other themselves with like taking pictures and cameras. So and how much different is it if it's like on a horizontal level versus like a bird's eye? Yeah, it's like it's still, it changes so much. Yeah,
but it's still the same.
Yeah, it's still the power, the dynamic of power seems like it changes, but then when you think about it, it's actually like if you're turning a lens to anything, there's already a kind of imbalance of power or something, in some way.
Yeah.
Also, I forgot, I was laughing when I was coming over here, like, the title of the piece, like, the window and the wall, and people kept, like, the first time you told me, I was like, from the window to the wall, when the sweat drops down my balls, like, But that was not a part of your consideration of the title, no.
That's so funny, though. We were also laughing so much because we were talking with the Italians, and and then I said that we got that the text where we say, "Hello, dear child, I'd like to inquire about your leaves." I got that from we have the strangest references. We got it from Salad Fingers.
Oh my god. Wow.
And then we have all these.
That's like the internet and the internet in the days before drones and before Facebook algorithms and all of this. Yeah. Sweet.
But it's funny because for me, these are I mean, like even how I came up with this text. I don't know where these ideas come from. They're always very. I don't know how it is for you, but for me, they're always really. Like, I was thinking of these movies when they come. There's the universe, and then there comes the planet, and then it comes, and then you are in some American suburb. All these references are always really like pop culture.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't do it because I'm interested in, but it's just like so automatic.
Yeah, it's just like what shows up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Strange.
Cool. Well, I mean, that should be good unless you have anything else burning that you need to say.
No. Not really.
Last chance. Okay.